up, everybody? My name is Cassandra Powell.
And my name is Andre Powell.
And we are married. Bam.
Oh, wrong hand.
Okay, yeah, disclaimer, we're a bit goofy, so if you can get down with that, please continue to watch this amazing video. Well, we are the owners of Powell House Co. And Powell House Co., we really want to empower you to live well, love well, learn well, and lead well, and we want you to be intentional about those things. So our current series is on loving well. We've been married for 3.5 years now, and we were actually going to tell you about our story and how we met and all that good stuff. We'll give you the condensed version because it might take a few hours and ain't nobody got time to watch that, nor do they, right? So we'll definitely give you the condensed version today. But we have a new form that we're using called Dear Cass Dre. We've, over the last few years, have mentored and counseled a good amount of youth and hyphen, helping them with their dating questions, whether they're newlyweds. It's been a variety of things. We've spoken at events.
Right.
We're hyphen directors, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a young adult organization for our church and all the churches across Ontario. We're over the hyphens. That's young adults from the ages of 18 to 36. So we were over that ministry for quite some time, and we absolutely loved it. So today, we just want to talk about how we met, and we also want to let you know that Dear Cass Dre is open and ready to go. And what that is if you have any questions about love, relationships, anything in between, we're going to do our best to answer those questions using godly principles.
Yes.
So we invite you to send those questions in, and we'll definitely have a link below that you can do that. So, Andre, maybe you can tell the people how we met.
Okay.
Make it good.
I'll try. So, originally how we met, originally I'm from Jamaica. I came up here in the late 90s, came to Canada in the late 90s, and I went to high school. I played basketball a lot. That was my big sport. Took over from soccer. Went from soccer to basketball, and I played basketball a lot before school, during school, after school. You know, every chance I get on the weekends, I play a lot of basketball. I played basketball at my work. We set up a basketball net at the workplace, and we just played a lot of hoops. And originally, I was playing basketball with a friend of mine, and you know, we met just like every other time, and he invited me out to church. And the church was in Grimsby, and you know, I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll come out Sunday. I told God I'll wait till I'm 20. Here I am at 17. You know, I'm like, let me check out this church. And I went there, and when I went there, my buddy Andrew was telling me about his sister that was supposed to come from school. She was in school in Stockton, California. She was coming back within the year, and he was just telling me how amazing she was at singing, how amazing she was at the keyboard and everything. And I'm like, yeah, right. Sure, you would say that because she's your sister. You would say that, you know. So sure enough, this beautiful lady came to the church, and I heard her sing, I heard her play, and I'm like, man, she's even better than Andrew said.
Bam.
You know, and I remember after the first time I heard her, I went up and I introduced myself, and she gave me this great big hug, and I'm like, whoa. I was a little bit taken back. I'm like, man, this girl's a hugger. I got to work on my hugs. So that was my first impression of her. She's a hugger. So we've been friends ever since for about 14 years now, and you know, just one thing led to another. Do you want to tell your side? Maybe
Yeah.
First impression.
Well, yeah, I don't remember a lot about the first meeting. I mean, it was like 14, 15 years ago. Actually, longer than that now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But what I do remember, we started to become better friends over the years. And when I first started out kind of in the music field, industry, whatever you want to call it, guys, I did some gigs that weren't the greatest, you know. Like sometimes it would be 26 different people that were singing or performing, and I would be like, you know, number 24 on a Saturday night. I have to get up for church the next day. And some of these events would be like in church basements. Nothing against, you know, if you're starting out or anything, but just letting you know, it was not glamorous at all. And Andre was an amazing friend. Like my parents, you know, they were diehards, so they came to everything. And Andre came out to everything, just supportive. So we just became good friends from that and just supported each other just in different things, our endeavors, that type of thing. So that's kind of where it started, just us being good friends, supporting one another. Fast forward, like 13 years after where this all began, I was actually speaking to a friend. I'll just say a friend because that will, yeah, we'll just say a friend. So I was.
We don't want to name names.
We're not exactly, but yeah, I don't want to give like another name. Forget about. So I was speaking to a friend, and anyways, they were just telling me quickly that they had asked Andre about me. And they also asked him about like another female friend. And the three of us were always really good friends. And so they asked him like why we had never dated. And he said, well, you know, any guy would be lucky to date her. But I think he thought that I was out of his league, which was crazy. So when she said this, I was like, wait, Andre Powell said that? It was just weird because we'd only been friends. So I didn't even know he even thought that way. So she said that. And then I just kind of dismissed it. Because I had this, I guess you could say, just this idea of somebody I would meet. I figured it would be somebody I didn't already know. I don't know why I thought that. I guess because I had a lot of guy friends growing up, so I just figured, well, if it wasn't romantic at first, how can that possibly turn into something like that? I just didn't think that would happen for me. So anyways, fast forward to probably about a year after this, I was dropping his sister off after an event, and he opened the door for her, and literally I heard God say to me like, that is your husband. Guys, I almost fell out of the car. I was absolutely in shock. I was in denial. I was confused. I'm like, wait, did I really hear from the Lord? So at that point, I prayed about it a little bit here and there, but, nothing too serious. And then a few months later, it was Christmas time. And at this point, I was living in a different city than Andre, but my parents were still, in the same city where he was. So I went down for Christmas break, and we got together, like we were friends, right? So we got together often. So during that Christmas, this is a Christmas that changed everything. So normally as friends, we would hang out in a group setting, maybe, every once in a while. This Christmas break, we were together like every single day. And I mean, we're talking for hours. We're like just out of the order. Like this is something that just hadn't happened in our friendship.
Right.
Not only that, but I remember we like had plans to go to Niagara Falls. We're from the Niagara area. We grew up there. And every time we planned to go somewhere, a couple of times that we did, nobody else would show up. It was just the two of us set up. Like that's a God setup right there. So all of a sudden, it's awkward. I remember like we were walking, along Niagara Falls, and I'm like, what am I supposed to say to this guy? Guys, we've been friends for years, and all of a sudden it just got so awkward. I don't know like what to say to him. I felt shy. I'm like, I'm not a shy person. What in the world is happening? By the time that Christmas week ended, I said, there's obviously something going on here. And one event that really brought that to, I guess just brought it up front was there was a friend that came with us we went to Niagara on the Lake.
Yes, we did.
So a friend was there, and that was the time I was wishing that the friend wasn't there. The time a friend actually showed up, I was like, oh, I wish it was just me and Andre. I'm like, hold up a second. Girl, what is happening with you? So it was, I think, a couple days before New Year's. And that's really when we had the conversation. Too many details there, but we had the conversation. And I remember like I'm just saying to him like, hey, what's going on with you? And he's like, what's going on with you? And that's when we realized, wait a minute, like something is obviously happening here. We have feelings for each other. And we just started laughing hysterically. If you know us for longer than a minute, we love to laugh. So we're laughing because it just seems so insane. Like we've known each other. In fact, in the city of St. Catharines where we grew up, we always lived in the same neighborhoods, but not at the same time.
Went to the same
schools, but not at the same time. And so we just thought it was hilarious. And not only that, but I have an uncle that my mom's oldest brother, she didn't grow up living with him. He lived in a different part in Jamaica where she's from. And he was Andre's next door neighbor. Yeah, so God had been setting us up from time. Now, take it to maybe a few days after that, we felt that we needed to really pray and fast about this because both of us are in leadership. And even if you're not in leadership, it's really important about just don't date somebody for the sake of dating them because you have feelings, but you want to make sure that it's a God thing because it's so important that you're just not wasting your time, wasting somebody else's time, getting feelings caught up in emotions and all of that, and really like hindering you from meeting the person that God has for you. So we really wanted to be intentional about, just taking that time to pray and seek the Lord.
Yeah. And right, like, the biggest thing I find with other people our age at the time was that a lot of people make decisions based on emotions. How I feel. This person makes me feel loved. They make me feel wanted or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for us, it was like, we want God to confirm this. And once God has confirmed that we're meant to be together, then we believe that through the confirmation, God will bring the emotional side.
Yes,
But if we had the emotional side before the confirmation, it would just kind of just, we'd be going on pure emotion, and we know that emotion only lasts for so long. The honeymoon only lasts for so
Yes,
long, and
that's
then
true.
reality hits you. So,
Yes, it's true. So we decided that we should bring my mentor in. At this point, Andre hadn't even met her yet, and she's an incredible woman of God.
Sweet.
And yes, and so I called her and said, hey, this is what happened over Christmas break, and she was really excited, which is not like her. Like, she's one of those people that, okay, honey, okay, let me pray about it, and it's just, okay. Well, this time she goes, you know what, I have a good feeling about this, but you know what, then she goes, let me pray about it, and I'll just pray along with you guys over the next few days as we just see what the Lord is saying.
See, when this lady is no joke, she's a prayer warrior. She's very in tune with God. There's a lot of guys that that have interested in Cassandra, and as soon as she catches wind of it, she would say, like, I don't think this guy is the right one, and I'm like, I trust her 100%. So when I heard that she has a good feeling about me, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. That's all I need to hear right now.
Yes.
This can work. Whatever I need
light.
to go through, whatever I need to do, God, just do it. Because if this lady says she has a good feeling about me, then there's I have a good chance.
She does not say that very easily. So we spent the next few days just praying and seeking the Lord about this. We hadn't told our families, or we just kept it between us, because we felt if we had shared with everybody what was happening and then it didn't work out, then that would have just caused a bigger mess.
Right.
So we just took that time just with my mentor just to see what God was saying about it. And after the 3 days, the plan was that Andre was going to come down, meet her. She was going to counsel us, and what we thought was, yay, we're going to begin this relationship, and so excited because God has come through, on this matter. Well, at the end of the 3 days, she called me and said, I need for you to come by my house and, I'm going to call Andre and let him know not to come down to Toronto yet. She goes, I just want to meet with you. So I'm like, okay. I go to her house. This was in, January. It was very cold. I'll never forget that day. It was so cold that day. And I go to her house, and she was actually pretty sick that day. So she was sitting across the room from me. And within the first couple of sentences, I knew it wasn't good news. So she said, I struggle with this all night because I wanted to tell you to go ahead and begin courtship, with Andre. And she said, the Lord wouldn't release me and allow me to say that. And she said, I'm not sure why that is. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to take in what she was saying because I was in that moment, my heart was just devastated. So I remember asking her, is it okay if I just record you on my phone and then I'll listen to it later? And she said, okay, no problem. So I pressed record, and there's a lot of words that she said because she talked for, maybe an hour or two. And I heard nothing. All I heard was, God is saying no. And so at the end of it, she, prayed with me and said, hey, I'm not saying that God is saying no. God is just saying to wait. And we know, if you're a Christian or if you've been a Christian longer than a minute, nobody wants to hear the word wait, right? You're just like, this is the Lord. Let's run, jump, leap. Let's do this. And I was like, you need to slow your roll. So at this point, she said, I don't know how long this is going to be for, but when we're all going to know when the right time is, and then we'll have that conversation in that meeting. A couple weeks goes by, and I don't know how many times I called over the couple weeks because I was convinced that God was showing me things that probably weren't there. But when you really want something, I was like, oh, I believe the Lord is showing me da-da-da-da. And she said, oh, honey, let's just keep praying. So finally, it was probably 2 to 3 weeks later, it might be a little bit off with my timeline there, she called me and said, okay, it's time, let's meet with Andre. And for some reason, I was so nervous because I didn't know, we hadn't spoken over these few weeks. And so I wasn't sure if he was still in the process or if he just checked out. He didn't really know my mentor. Like, why does he want to be part of this? So he came to Toronto, and we were all, I don't know why we were nervous, but the doorbell rings, and I remember I run to the door, and it was the pizza man. Like, I thought it was Andre. Then the doorbell rings maybe about 10 minutes later, and then it's Andre. We're like, oh, hey. Like, it just felt like forever since we had seen each other. And so she sat down and with us and just started asking, just kind of like those questions at first were just trying to get to know him, I guess.
Yes,
just basic
absolutely
kind of questions. But for some reason, how he was answering the questions, like, when you feel like somebody's not giving the right answers, I wanted to jump in, but God wouldn't even allow me to open my mouth. Because I wanted to say, no, if you say that, then she's going to say it's not time yet. But it really wasn't up to her. It really was up to God. But before I even went into that meeting, I knew that it wasn't time. And later to find out, you felt the same way, right?
I felt the exact same way. Going into that meeting, I knew right away, it's like, it's not time. It's not time. It's not time. And I'm like hoping against hope, I'm like, I just, maybe God will change his mind when he get there, when he see how pitiful I look and just how down I am. He's just like,
he's gonna like surprise us.
Oh yeah, just completely just turn it around for us.
No,
so,
and that didn't
not
happen.
the case.
So just to condense it, by the time we finished that meeting, we were all on the same page. It was hard, guys. It was hard. And so
Rough.
she prayed over us, and the prayer that she prayed over us, like, I'll never forget. And I remember her telling us that if you guys honor God by waiting on him and waiting for his timing, he will bless you. He will bless your marriage.
Yeah.
He will bless your children. Like, God will honor everything you do because you waited for him and
Right.
you waited for his timing.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I want the blessings of the Lord, so I'll suffer through this. I mean, yeah, it feels like forever, but a marriage is a whole lot longer than however long this is going to be, right? So let's just do what we got to do. And me and Andre just both had the mindset that we're just going to do this God's way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to say something there, like some detail that I forgot. Girls and details remember every single detail. So we left from there, and when we left, she said that, you guys are not going to text each other, you're not going to call each other, no contact, we're just going to wait on the Lord. Okay, so I literally left her house that day thinking, oh, it's going to take, I figured, a few weeks. I'm like, I'll give the Lord 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, and then we should be, good to go. That's a pretty long time, I think.
That's fair.
I'm like, I've been waiting a lifetime. Like, yeah, a few weeks, fine. And then a few weeks come and go, and we're still waiting. And a few more weeks come and go, and we're still waiting. Now months go by, and there are so many times during that time of waiting that I just was like, I just think I want to give up. I don't know, like, is this worth it? What if I go through all of this and then God just disappoint me? It's like, I don't know why we think that as Christians that God is out to get us or something, or he's not going to give us what we want. Like, it's going to be something less than what we want, not realizing he's a good father and he wants good things for us, right? So it's just like your flesh just fighting and mad and all of that. And so I was going through that. But what I can say to you is the time that we were apart, where it was months that we both needed, because I remember her saying as well that God has a plan, a great plan for both of you together.
That's right.
But she said, there's a work that needs to do individually before you can bring you together.
That's right.
So while we were apart, and I mean, I've for the most part, I've been a pretty confident person, and during those months, there was insecurities I didn't even know that I had that God brought up, and I guess I really thought that it just wasn't going to happen, and that was an insecurity. Like, what if I'm just not good enough, or and for me to get married, and maybe God is just going to hold this one out on me or whatever, right? And so God literally just dealt with one thing after another in my heart and in my life, and just gave me healing that I needed, that I wasn't even aware that I needed.
Right.
Yes. And then can you say what
for me one of the big things was I had idols that I need to get rid of, flat out. One of my biggest idol was my past, my past. I used to think, like, man, there are certain things that I went through. I'm gonna take it to the grave with me. I'm not gonna bring this, or come out and say, like, hey, this happened to me when I was younger or whatever. And God had me, look at it in the face and deal with it, and I got healing from that. And then I remember specifically during the 8 months, God brought me through a season of just teaching me what Calvary is all about, what true love is all about. I remember God impressing on my heart and saying to me, "Hey, you think you really know what love is all about? You want to get into a relationship, but first and foremost, I will never let you go into a relationship, broken and hurt another saint or another one of my children. I want you to go in that relationship whole, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm going to take you on this journey where I teach you different aspects of love. Love is kind, and God will bring me on a journey in that season and show me that, through someone or situation, that love is kind. He would take me into another situation where he said, to me, love is sacrificial. If you are not willing to die for that person, then you really do not love them. This is Calvary, and he showed me that as well. And he brought me on another journey and showed me how love is unconditional, and just how, no matter what the other person does to you, you never repay them evil for evil, but you love them even more. You pray for them. You take care of them. You give them your best. And also the other amazing thing that God showed me about love is vulnerable. You cannot love somebody with a wall in between you.
Yes,
You have to open up yourself up, even if that means you're going to get attacked and you're going to get hurt by that person, because that's what Jesus did at Calvary. He opened up himself for the mockery and the shame and the ridicule and the betrayal and all this stuff. You cannot let that stop you from loving somebody. And that's some of those critical components that God taught me, that went beyond my marriage into my relationship, into my ministry, and just it just blew my mind. And those are just some of the lessons that God taught me in that season that were absolutely critical to my success.
Yes. Another area, as he was speaking about that, reminded me, prior to me getting married, I was, extremely independent, and I had built my business from the ground up. I was traveling around the world. I was going to different countries probably every 6 to 8 weeks or so, sometimes more often than that. And I had built that on my own. And so I had just become really independent. I'm not saying independence is a wrong thing, but I also didn't realize that there was something within me that felt like nobody can tell me nothing. Like, I know what I'm doing. I was a lone ranger, and I was proud to be that. And now looking back, I realize how juvenile that thinking was. And so how in the world was I going to be a wife, if I couldn't submit? And so God was teaching me lessons on submissions and what that means to submit, right? Because some women look at it as like, I'm not going to submit to a man, but like as unto the Lord, right? Where everything that we're doing is unto the Lord, right? So God has placed him, and he has a responsibility over our family, but it's his responsibility to lead us, and it's my responsibility to submit to that leadership. And if you do that, then you'll be blessed in every area in your life. Well, up until that point, I didn't really understand what that was. And so God is preparing my heart for marriage. And so there's so much more than boy meets girl, fall in love, yay, get married, have kids, right? Which a lot of us, traditionally, that's all we think that it is. And it's just so much more than that. Right. Marriage is a ministry. Right. Marriage is of God. And so it's important that we go into that with the right mindset, the right perspective. So going back, I guess, so we talked a bit about, how we met and how that came together. Well, the time period that we were apart ended up being 8 months. And those 8 months were long, excruciating. There was a lot of growth happening. There was a lot of dying to flesh during that time. And there was many times I wanted to give up. I don't know if you probably felt the same way, because we weren't speaking to each other. We were just, respecting that boundary that our mentor put into place. But how God brought this all together was so beautiful in only a way that God can do it. It ended up being on my birthday, which is in August, which is 8th month. His birthday's in August as well, August the 20th. So 8 is a significant number for us. The very first gift that he gave me was an infinity, which is also in the sign of a number 8, which is also my ring. I don't know if you can see it, but on the side, it's also an 8 as well. So it's everywhere. 8 is significant because it means new beginning. Right. Actually, my mentor's church is called New Beginning. So it was just 8 months we went through this, and then on the 8th month was when, and it's a long story, but it's already been long. What are we gonna do? But at the 8th month in, we finally, we all were in agreement that like God finally had released us to begin courtship. And we were going to tell my parents, who had not known this whole time. My dad, nobody was ever good enough, and I think that's how dads probably should feel about their little girls, but my dad was just just not having it. Now the interesting thing is that he mentored Andre since the time Andre was saved. So who should be better, right? So prior to that 8th month, I think it was a couple months before that, I had dinner with my parents. It was like a Father's Day dinner. And that's when my parents brought up the fact that me and Andre had spent like a lot of time together over Christmas. And so my mom was like, wow, it just seemed you and Andre like spent more time than you normally do. I said, and now I'm there, oh gosh, like I'm not going to tell them what's going on because it's not time to tell them. And so I just try to play it off. I said, oh, you know we're friends. My mom was like, yeah, but it seemed like you spent a lot of time together. And I'm dying inside. Like I want to tell them so bad. And so my mom just turns to my dad jokingly and says, hey, honey, could you see Andre as your son-in-law? And my dad, who is like diehard, is like, yes, I could. Now I'm like, what has happened to my father? And so my mom was in shock too and asked him again, no, Andre Powell, could you see Andre Powell as your son-in-law? My dad said, yes, I could. And over those 8 months, it was like one confirmation after another, which I haven't shared with you the other ones, but there was many that happened over those 8 months. On the 8th month, it happened to be my birthday, and me and Andre, when we had the go-ahead to begin this courtship, wanted to tell my parents the day before my birthday. And because I'm like, if it goes bad, I don't want that to be a bad birthday. So we decided we're going to tell them the day before. And Andre, and he's coming home that day from work, which would be like a 45-minute drive, ended up taking a couple.
2 hours.
Yeah.
2.5
It had
hours.
never happened before. And just all these different things that, like, my parents weren't home at the same time, so it was not the day. And so on my birthday, I decided to stay over to hang out at the Grimsby Church. I was at a different church at that time. So to stay at my dad's church, and my dad went up to teach Bible study, and he brought up the very passages of scripture that God had given to me at the beginning of when we started this whole waiting process, down to like the last chapter of just before this day. And I'm like, okay, this is, Lord, you're obviously speaking. You're obviously confirming. It was the most amazing birthday gift. And then that night we sat down with my parents. They were in complete shock. And my dad was so funny. He's like, where's my, what did he say?
Let's not say that on record.
Yeah, you know, like some guys have, like some men or some dads have like a shotgun, something like that, right? But it was really funny. Then my parents, so they were really proud of us for doing this God's way. And yeah, they gave us their blessing to begin courtship. And that was in August of 2015. And we got married in June of 2016. And when I tell you God bless us then and is continuing to bless us and grant us favor,
Right.
Even our venue, they renovated our venue, it just happened to be in our wedding colors. Like, it was such a God thing. The time that we got for our wedding, I mean, we'll probably do another video just on what happened, the miracles with our wedding. But all of that to say is that when you wait on God, He will bless you beyond
Absolutely.
your wildest dreams.
Absolutely.
And so now we've been married for 3.5 years. We have a baby boy. He's so cute. We'll introduce you to him at some point. He's 11 months old. His name is Zion, and he's the love of our life. He's amazing. Yeah, so all of that, that's us. We apologize if this first video was kind of long, but it's a long story, and so we're sorry about that. But hopefully you know us a little bit better, and we'll share more about ourselves in the upcoming videos. But we want you to send your questions. If you have questions about, if you're waiting, right, on the Lord for that right person and you don't know what to do in the season of waiting, send questions in. If you're like, maybe you're currently in a relationship and maybe you see certain things you're not sure about that and you don't have somebody you can talk to, send us questions. Or if you're a newlywed and you're trying to navigate that, because even when it's the right person, would you agree that it can definitely be...
It's just as tough.
Yes, it can be tough,
Just as
right?
tough.
So it's two people coming together that are totally different from one another. And so even when it's a God thing, it's still things that you have to navigate through and get through. So
Absolutely.
we love you guys, and we want to encourage you to love well. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. So have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you some more.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.